Welcome to another episode of Game Boy Roulette, where we take a look at randomly chosen games from the Game Boy library. Mega Man 2, it's finally happened, everyone! Look, the holiday season was super busy for me, it's a new year, and it's episode 300, which is a milestone. I'm giving the randomizer the week off, and finally getting around to officially reviewing one of my all-time favorite Game Boy games. I would say that of every Game Boy game I've played, Mega Man 2 is the one I've beaten to completion by far the most, and probably second in terms of most hours put into it, beaten only by my beloved Tetris. It's one of the first games I owned for the system, and I still have the original copy of the game from my childhood. See those three dots? That's what I put on the back of my cartridges so I'd know which ones were mine, even though I don't think this game ever left the house. The game also has a very interesting development story. The first game, Dr. Wily's Revenge, was developed by Minakuchi Engineering, but Capcom switched developers to Thinking Rabbit for Game 2, but they would switch right back after, due to what series mainstay Kaiji Anafune would call a bad experience working with Thinking Rabbit. Mega Man 2 would be their biggest game that they ever worked on, and look, even with my love of the game, I can't deny that the other Mega Man games on the Game Boy do play better, have more variety, and even look better. Mega Man 2 is the weird black sheep of the handheld Mega Man games, and my love of it is strongly nostalgia-based, but there's nothing wrong with that, is there? Who are you to argue with the three dots? The box art is the kind of delightful art we've come to expect from Mega Man, with the Blue Bomber himself off to save the day on Rush, and that guy in the background is the iconic Mega Man character Quint. You know, Quint, Mega Man from the future, who only appears in this game and nowhere else? Let's jump into my ultimate comfort zone. We're powering up with Mega Man 2. I have seen this title screen so many times over the years. Mega Man 2. I always loved the rotating arrow. It's not much, but it just looks nice. So, in case you haven't watched my full playthrough of the game, Mega Man 2 combines robot masters from Mega Man 2 and 3 for the NES. And I always start with Clash Man. The controls are exactly what you would expect. A to jump, B to shoot, and you can slide. And that's it. This is before... Wow, I actually avoided him. This is before the, power shot. All the way to the right, and skip the whole thing. Can you tell I've played this a couple times? The music in this game is... I mean, I don't think there's a Mega Man game with bad music. They all are good. So, as I said... Oh, you can't get that energy tank without a, rush jet or coil. We don't have it yet. As I said, this game is very nostalgic for me. I love it. But I can't call it the best Mega Man game for Game Boy, because it's not. In fact, it might technically be the worst one, which isn't to say it's bad. An underwhelming Mega Man game is still Mega Man, but there are some issues with it, and the big one, and this is one Kaiji Anafune brought up while discussing this game, it's really easy. So take a look at this. First, let's kill the birds. You know how energy tanks in the other games are super rare and you have to work to get them? Here's a free one. And, while we're at it, how about a full life? They really make this game super easy. There's no real... The difficulty never really spikes. So here is a trick enemy, but, like, you could just not walk under it if you don't want to. Yeah, it's just... The difficulty is a big thing. Mega Man's always been difficult, but this is a weird outlier. First boss. Clashman / Crashman. How you do this? You mirror his movements and you jump and shoot. Boom. It's still very impressive how well they shrunk Mega Man down. And that pretty much applies to every Mega Man game on the Game Boy. Boom, let's break the pattern. Haha. And now, just like always, you gain his power. Yes. Another banger of a song. Spoiler alert, they're all this... Right. I remember now. Well, thankfully, they give us health right here. Like I said, very easy game. And I feel like that's the main reason it's considered the black sheep of the series. Oh, you want to see something cool? Look at them flicker! Graphics so intense, the Game Boy literally cannot handle them. Another thing about this game, it does feel very cut down compared to other Mega Man games. You know, there's no power shots, there's no bonus stages between, there's no included story. You know, by this time in the Mega Man franchise, they were actually having cutscenes. It really is just a game where I fully acknowledge my nostalgia bias. Mega Man 3, Mega Man 4, Mega Man 5, they all do very different things and really push the Game Boy. This one feels like it is precisely what the Game Boy was capable of, if that makes sense. It didn't push anything, it didn't do anything super special, but what it did was provide a fun platformer game. And you know what? Sometimes that's enough. Oh, I wish I still had, I don't have the booklet anymore, but the booklet contains the whole story. And it involves time travel, and it involves, like, Quint, the mysterious Mega Man from the future, who they never bring up in any other game ever again. 1, 2, 3, 4. My full thoughts on the game, you can see, I'll put a link on screen now. But I did a full playthrough of this game. I think it's only about 3 videos. I do love this game, but I acknowledge I don't know if I'd call them flaws so much as I would just its basicness. It is just a very, very basic Mega Man game. And again, maybe it doesn't do anything new or super special, but it does everything right, you know? It's one of those games. And one last thing to show off. The Ostrich Slaughter Room. Man, they really just give you everything, huh? Ah, there's nothing cozier than a cold steel robot blasting other robots. I have long since lost track of how many times I've completed this game, and yet it's a game I can come back to over and over and still get enjoyment from it. Like I said, it's my comfort zone game, a game that I can throw on at any time and beat in an hour whenever I'm in the mood for something nostalgic. It's just a really solidly designed platformer with easy to understand gameplay, good graphics, and excellent music that all showcase what the Game Boy was capable of. It also has the advantage of being the perfect length for a Game Boy platformer, long enough to feel like you're getting your money's worth, but not so long that it overstays its welcome, making it the kind of game that you can breeze through in one enjoyable sitting. But even with all my nostalgic love for the game, every time I replay it I remember the same thing. This game is probably the weakest of the Game Boy Mega Man games. It mostly comes down to having such a massive lack of features compared to the other games. No power shots, no complex or giant mini-bosses, and even the backgrounds and enemy designs are kinda uninspired. Plus, it's one of the easiest Mega Man games, and for a series known for high difficulty, that does hurt it. But maybe those are all part of the reason why I like the game. Rather than it being a super challenging and time-consuming game, it's just a nice little simple platformer to get absorbed in for an hour. It's not often you can call Mega Man cozy, but it's the best way to describe this game for me. I will always have a soft spot in my heart for Mega Man 2. Even though it's missing a lot of what the series is known for, it's still a fun experience that remains one of my most beloved Game Boy games. Although maybe not number 1 most beloved. I mean, come on, Tetris is right there. And that's all for another episode of Game Boy Roulette. Make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe to follow the series as we continue to dig through the Game Boy vault. I'm Brian J, and I'll see you next time.